We want to start the real official theme song of WWE WAR because sadly for us tonight, Marcus, it's going to be all downhill from here, just like it was for Test after he changed from that theme song. But we are here talking wrestling on WWE WAR. It is the nerdiest podcast, I'd argue, probably anywhere you're going to find. My buddy and I going through the history of WWE wrestling, every pay-per-view ever in a seasonal format, and basing everything on a plus-minus system, ranking every pay-per-view of all time that way. Marcus, how are you?
I'm good. Should we do WWE films once we're done with this project?
Why not?
Apply the war
Condemned?
concept.
Yes.
Chaperone anybody?
I can tell you where
Who's
that's
ready
gonna
for some
finish.
field tripping?
It's going to finish alongside this show we're going to talk about tonight. But that said, thanks for joining us here on the Notice How Connection. This podcast and many others are simulcast with video and audio. You can check us out on YouTube if you're not right now, and you just search Notice How Connection, subscribe, and you'll get notified when we have new videos out, which is pretty much almost every day. We also have a lot of content on our audio feed. Some shows are simulcast, some just live exclusively on each feed. You can just search North South Connection on, I'm going to do the Shawn Michaels one up here. You can search North South Connection on any podcast application and subscribe there. We have everything we have on our social media and northsouthconnection.com as well. So on this show, like I mentioned, we're going through every pay-per-view in history. We're doing it in a seasonal format. That means we start with the pay-per-view following WrestleMania in any given calendar year. We wrap with WrestleMania the next calendar year, and that's a season for us. We just finished one in our last episode, capped off our best season of the 10 that we've done so far. That was 2001, 2002. And we have an interesting one ahead. It's quite the jump forward. We're going to be covering 2018, 2019. So we'll see how that goes, Marcus. There is a lot of content to cover in this season. These are very long shows. This is during the full-on network bloated excess pay-per-view special event era. There are some special shows we're not covering, like there were network exclusive specials and not considered pay-per-views at the time. All these motherfucking shows are at least like 4 hours. So we got a lot to cover through all these, and it's going to start with our first one tonight. What we do, though, is we watch every match. We grade every match. We take the average score of those match grades. So we take Marcus's grade, my grade, take the average, and then we go plus minus. So if you consider 2.5 to be a replacement level average match, whatever we're above or beyond that or below that is the points that get assigned to that match. We total that up. We also break down every show in a bunch of categories. And again, if you think of everything that's average as replacement level, an average moment, just the crowd is okay, commentary is okay. But anything that's better than that, okay, or anything that's worse than that, okay, gets a plus or minus assigned to it. And then we net everything out at the end. Marcus, do you want to tell us what categories that we rank through and discuss as we watch these shows?
Absolutely. We start off with build, followed up by commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, our match grades, the card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And for anybody uninitiated, an all-time match is anything that we both consider to be a 4.25 and above for it to be a plus, or a 0.75 and below for it to be a minus.
And to call it too, rewatchability is stuff that doesn't really fall into like a notable moment. And it's not just like a great match. Rewatchability is like I'll call it a guilty pleasure moment, or just like, ugh, I never want to watch that again kind of moment. It was cringy. It was, well, no, we'll see a lot of those. But it might have been we always talk about like Billy Gunn with the famous Survivor Series 01, that kind of stuff, right? It's like a fun, if you throw out a comp of the show, what are the moments you don't mind like rewatching outside of like the match itself? So, okay. So why don't we go ahead and dive into our new season, 2018, 2019. It's coming off WrestleMania New Orleans, coming off one of the best takeovers of all time in TakeOver New Orleans. But tonight we're going to be covering just WWE for the whole season, I should say. NXT we do separately. So we're going to dive in with the show I was dreading, Marcus. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fan of any of the Saudi Arabia shows per se. And this was the first one. And like we said, we're in full-on bloated era. This is the greatest Royal Rumble. It took place April 27th, 2018 from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia at King Abdullah International Stadium. They put in attendance of 60,000. Who knows? Who cares? It's all three brands. We have Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton on commentary. It's a pretty full card. And the hook of the show is that it's going to be the greatest Royal Rumble of all time, right? So it's a 50-man Royal Rumble. And I think besides the stupid Saudi Arabia shit, what bothered me right away was the concept that this Rumble was going to be counted amongst the other Rumbles from a historical show. We're doing a show, you and I, grounded in stats, baseball like stats. And a show like this just broke me. I was like, we should not be counting this as a Royal Rumble. They should have called it, made this the greatest Rumble, the greatest Battle Royal, whatever you want to call it. But like, to bastardize their most popular gimmick of all time, the Royal Rumble, with this nonsense bothered me to no end.
Well, I remember when the rumors started of them running shows in Saudi Arabia, they wanted to take a known brand over there. So the hot rumor was that WrestleMania, there was going to
Mm-hmm.
be not a formal WrestleMania, but like their WrestleMania, an
Right.
additional WrestleMania. And they were going to start having WrestleMania here, WrestleMania this, WrestleMania that, as opposed to the one WrestleMania per year. And I think those rumors weren't too far off base because, I mean, we get that here with Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Yep. And we do get WrestleMania Backlash, right? At some point too, they
Mm-hmm.
start calling it that. So, all right, let's dive in. We'll go by the matches. I honestly don't give a fuck about this show. I'm gonna be very. And it held up as that. Like it didn't. I went into it clean. I was like, all right, let me see. Maybe this is me, and I was in a bad place at the time with this shit. Like maybe it's better than I. No, it's not. So like, we're not gonna spend a lot of time in the matches. We'll just be straightforward with you on this show. Um, we open with John Cena versus Triple H. Cena had really kind of become a part-time guy, as had Triple H at this point, right? Cena is coming off that terrible thing with Undertaker at WrestleMania, where Taker pretty much just buries him. Triple H, when was his last? Had he wrestled since 33 with Rollins? Did he do anything in 17? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Would have been 34 coming off of the Ronda tag
Oh
match.
yeah, okay, yeah. So he had just done that, right? Okay, where he punched Kurt Angle in the face on Raw. Um, so obviously I get it, right? You start with kind of a dream match, two legends to kick the show off. I'd argue they peak here as the night goes on. I went 2 3/4. Fine, whatever. Cena wins.
Yep. 2 3/4 for me too. It's fine. It's established names. It's a good way
Yeah.
to start the show.
Yep.
Our next match is for the cruiserweight title, the old purple belt, as Cedric Alexander is going to retain against Kalisto.
Yep.
I gave this 2.5. Athleticism's good, but I just thought it was just a match.
I went 3 stars. I like this. I like Cedric Alexander a lot. This is a really, I think it's a forgotten year for him as far as his push. He has like almost a year-long undefeated run where he's not pinned. He holds the cruiserweight title from Mania until almost the end of the year, and he's really the centerpiece of 205 Live during one of its best runs. Like his 205 Live started what, like 2017-ish, I think.
Mhm.
And for a couple of years, it was a really fun show. Like I really enjoyed watching 205 Live regularly. The cruiser action was pretty strong on it, and Alexander was the centerpiece. So I was a fan of him during the stretch. I had also liked him a lot. Like I was really into ROH in like 13, 14, 15, and he was on there a lot in tag team and singles action and stuff, and he was really good on that too. So
Yeah, as we continue this into future seasons, I think past 2019, if we ever do 2022 and stuff like that, I think he's going to be a big guy that we see like they missed the boat on because he's super talented.
still time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's still there. All right, Raw tag titles are next. Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt defeat the Bar to win the belts. This is they were vacant right after Nicholas and Braun Strowman fiasco
Mm-hmm.
at WrestleMania. So they do a little tournament, and Hardy and Wyatt win. We're full in woken, broken Matt Hardy. They tried to redo the one thing that TNA ever did that was better than anything else in wrestling, and that was during the Broken saga a couple years before this, which was just awesome stuff. They tried to recreate it a bit here, and they paired him with the spooky Bray Wyatt, and I thought they actually had some decent little chemistry. Like I didn't mind them. I'm a Bar super fan, so I was a little upset to see them lose during this year when they're tremendous. The match is fine. I went 2 3/4. I'd call it a bit of a surprise though.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to hear a bad word about Sheamus and Cesaro this whole season, and that's because there's not a bad word to be said about the two. They're fantastic. I'm not a fan of the Matt Hardy Bray Wyatt combination, so I went 2.25. Just something I never care to see again.
I mean,
Uh,
this is a topic for another show, but Cesaro's going to be a top 3 tag worker of all time, and at least in company history, if not all time. Yeah, maybe number
One
one.
for me. One for
Yeah.
me.
If you look at all time, I mean, Arn's up there, right? It's hard to. You
I'll
saw
go one.
Cesaro over Arn.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Arn's great. I know that's that's a
Cesaro's
maybe
got what?
that.
He's got Kings of Wrestling. He's got the team with TJ. He's got the team
Mm-hmm.
with Sheamus. There's another
Team
one,
of
right? One more.
Swagger.
Swagger. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blackpool Combat Club stuff
Mm-hmm.
now. So yeah. Um, all-time great tag worker. For the United States title in our next contest, it is Jeff Hardy defeating my man Don't Hinder Jinder, retaining the U.S. title. I went with a 2.25 for this match as well. Just slightly above WAR.
Yeah.
They were a little off.
I went 2.25 as well. I'm a Jeff Hardy super fan. Hardy Boys, Super Mark. I went crazy at WrestleMania 33 when they made the return. So it was cool to see Hardy get this singles push, but I mean, Mahal's whatever. I know you like him, but and this is right after his world title run, so whatever. He's probably at the coming right off the peak of his powers during the stretch. He's still getting a bit of a push. Hardy's our U.S. champion. Next, we have another tag title match. This is SmackDown tags as the Bludgeon Brothers beat the Usos. 2018 is not that long ago, Marcus, and it surprised me that like the Usos are still not the Usos yet. Like, I'm curious to see when that comes. Like, I don't know. Like, they're well regarded and they're pushed, but they're not the Usos that we know today, right? Like number one, top 3 tag team of all time type stuff. I know they finished high when we did the GWE tag team list, and I think that was in 18. So I think they were well regarded by fans, but just like to see them here get crushed by the Bludgeon Brothers was pretty surprising. So I went 2.5. I thought it was fine. I like the Bludgeon Brother run in 18 because they were the best parts of the Wyatt family and they deserved it. But what do you think of this one?
I went 2.75. Really solid tag team match. Luke Harper for me, Brody. He's a top 100 worker in company history. He's just super solid in everything he does. And the Usos, I didn't get to do a list in 2018, but I would definitely have them in my top 3, without a doubt. They're just
I
a
think if you
great
did it
tag
now,
team.
they may be number one.
They might be. I mean, they're in that demolition stratosphere right now, and that is with the Bloodline storyline. But yeah, I
I
think
think New Day might have finished.
New
Or
Day
I'm
is great too.
forgetting.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Hardys. I think the Hardys finished 1, New Day 2, Usos 3, something like. Or maybe that was me and Aaron's list. We did a joint list. It was something like that. But
Yeah. I'm
I
curious
think
where that
looking
stands
now,
now.
I'd say the Usos are probably number 1 now after this run. I would think.
Those.
Usos.
All right. We have a Intercontinental title match as it is Seth Rollins retaining in a fatal 4-way against Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, and Mike The Miz. I went with a war of. Was this a ladder match? This was a ladder match, right? I went with a war of 3.
Yeah, it was a lot of match. This is a pretty good year for Joe. I think it's forgotten. I think everyone remembers the NXT stuff and thinks he just does nothing. But 18, he's kind of all over the place. This is pretty much a rematch of Mania, just with Joe and the ladder added in. And it was one of the best matches of Mania was the opener, Balor, Miz, and Rollins, where Rollins won the IC belt. This is 3.25 for me. I don't think it's as good as that. I think this underperformed when you look at the guys in it and the gimmick. I think this should have been better. But I just think there was a lid on the action on this night across the
Yeah,
board.
and it's just you don't want to fly back on that long flight banged up from a ladder match. Like it's just
Yeah, right.
not the right match.
All right, up next we have the WWE title on the line is AJ Styles defending against Nakamura. This is kind of the feud of the early half of the season. They had their first match at Mania. It was good, but it was definitely disappointing. I think everyone was banking on them to deliver what they had seen in New Japan, right? When they had that classic. And we're just a couple years later, by the time we get to this feud, and it just never clicks. Well, we're going to chronicle this feud more than any, probably, in the season. They fight a bunch. This is the one where we do it's the double knockout or whatever, or the double count out. They weren't going to waste a title change or a significant finish on this crowd, I think. So we kind of just pivot and keep it rolling to the next show. Again, I went 3.25. I like it, but it's significantly disappointing when you think of like what you're expecting it to be.
Yeah, if you're gonna get to a double count out or the double non finish, like I'd rather it burn bright and burn fast than like do the slow build of a great professional wrestling match that gets out of control. Like just escalate things quickly and get to the value. This wasn't for me. This whole feud's not for me. Like their New Japan work is some all time great stuff in pro wrestling, but a couple years later in WWE, a different setting, whatever. It's just not for me. I went 2.75. Next up, oh boy, bury me softly, brother. It is
Oh, my favorites.
Undertaker taking on Rusev in a casket match. Man, I was a little lower on this than I anticipated, but I went with a war or two for this match. But it may not reflect how much I enjoyed it.
I went 2.25. Yeah, this is the infamous "Bury Me Softly, Brother," where Rusev, coming off the red hot Rusev Day, is still going on here during this time period. They ate in English and the intros, and I was at Mania New Orleans at 34, and the Rusev Day chant was like the most over thing in New Orleans. I mean, it was I feel like every Mania weekend has like a catchphrase that everyone's doing or saying, a moment. Like, was it 29? It was the Fandango. Like, everyone's got, every Mania weekend's got a hit. And Rusev Day was the one. Everywhere we went, Rusev Day. And it was so super over. And I think that's why, Rusev, who never shied away from saying whatever he wanted to say on social media and elsewhere, when they announced that he'd be fading Taker in a casket match, it was quite clearly obvious that it was not going to end well for him. So yeah, producer Tim says they replaced Rusev with Jericho. Did they go back to Rusev? Was that what it was? It was
they
going to be Rusev, then it was Jericho, and then they realized they didn't want to bury Jericho, so they went back to
Rusev. They
Rusev.
changed it like later that day. I think they changed it
Right.
to like Jericho as like a punishment or whatever.
Oh, for the "Bury Me Softly," right? Okay,
Yeah,
we said "Bury Me Softly." They punished him, took him out of the match, and then they switched it back to Rusev.
And buried him softly.
Yes. Bury Me Softly, brother. All-timer. All right. Next up is the WWE World Title. Brock Lesnar defends against Roman Reigns and retains. 2.5 here for me. It's a steel cage match. It's a fart bomb rematch from their fart bomb at WrestleMania that ends with the classic Brock going backstage and throwing the belt at Vince after they bomb out the main event of Mania. It's not the last time we're going to see these guys, obviously, far from it, but this just was as pedantic as it gets for me. A completely average title match at 2.5.
Yeah, I love these two. I don't love them in this time period. They're not booked to either man's strengths. But yeah, two top 5 GWW guys for me.
9-minute
And
cage match at blah.
if there's a saving grace, it's the fact that it was only 9 minutes, and I think they did what Hardy and Nakamura should have done. But 2.5 for me.
Styles and Nakamura, I mean.
Styles and Nakamura. Who did I say?
Hardy.
Sorry. Anyway, Hardy. Okay.
We'll get to that.
Styles.
We'll get to that
will.
this season.
That takes us to our main event, which is the greatest (parentheses Royal Rumble) match, and it is Braun Strowman outlasting, outdrawing, and outlucking 49 other contestants to win the greatest Royal Rumble and get to raise his hand with the Crown Prince, and he gets a trophy and he gets a green belt.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to read all the guys. There's 50 entrants. What's crazy to me is that they don't have anyone doing double duty. It is 50 entrants that did not work earlier in the night. So they found 50 freaking guys. And there's not a lot of like legends or surprises either. It's like every Jambron on the roster is in this match.
World War III vibes for real.
Oh God, it's long. Strowman winning is kind of like whatever. I guess this is probably his best year. He's in some pretty big stuff later. It's an hour and 17 minutes. Eliminates Big Cass at the end. Ugh. It's like, yeah. It's uninspired, like most of the show. It's just completely uninspired. So I'm going to venture and say, Marcus, this is probably one of our lowest total match grade war scores at 0.75.
Yeah, I went
combined. Yeah. You had a 1. I went 2.5 on the match. But I mean, overall for the whole card is 0.75, which is hilariously low, honestly. All right, let's get to our categories. For build, we gave a +1 for Hardy and Wyatt, building a presence. We got the Broken Mat universe, and then this is the final of the tag tournament. A point for Jeff Hardy winning the U.S. title from Mahal. That sets up the rematch here. A point for the all-time tweet, bury me softly, brother. A point for the Usos getting singles wins on the Bludgeons to come into this show. A point for the good follow-up to the WrestleMania IC title match. Talked about that. A point for the ongoing Styles Nakamura feud with the low blows. And Nakamura saying, I don't speak English when they're asking him for an explanation. A point for the Reigns Lesnar title war. It's a pretty smooth path for Mania. Brock teases about leading to UFC. Then he announces he signed the contract and he brings the title back. So the feud itself is like progressing okay, but
For our minuses, we've got Cena and Triple H with no real build, just here's two legends. No build for the Cruiserweight title match as well. We got the tag team division being an utter mess with Nicholas and Braun giving up the titles. We get the shoehorned explanation of the tag team eliminator tournament. No build really for the casket match, although I think Rusev did more than they were going to do on TV. They just picked Rusev off the shelf, and he was at his hottest, and they looked to, all right, let's bury somebody who's at their hottest point. We got Sami Zayn, who quote unquote couldn't go to Saudi Arabia due to vertigo from Bob Lashley.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, we support Sami and not going. That's not the approach of that. It's just like the lame way they cover for it and say it. It's just stupid. So whatever. All right, so that's a +2 for build. Probably one of the best we're gonna get. Commentary. 1 point from Michael Cole with his stats about the international title changes, which is good. And they do a good job telling the Styles Nakamura history. That's about it, though, Marcus. What do we have for the bad for the commentary?
All right, lace my boots up.
Settle
we
in.
got Cole calling Triple H the creator, especially multiple times. The soundbite of the walking soundbite of Byron Saxton is back all night. We went -2 there. Constant Kingdom of Saudi Arabia pandering, let's say, all night. We've got all the announcers and wrestlers giving the hype and praise. Just feels like forced and sarcastic all night. Byron wondering what will Shinsuke do if he doesn't become champion tonight, just to calmly announce later that, like, oh, we're going to get another Nakamura versus AJ Styles match at Extreme Rules. Like, announcers struggle to explain the finish of the cage match, because it's pretty clear that Brock didn't hit. And so they kind of, well, maybe both feet touched, or it was the referee's discretion, or, this or that, or, oh, maybe it was just his back hit and that was good. I'm like, you've hit us over the head that it's both feet have to touch the floor. We've got Cole being obnoxious with Elias. It's just forced and over the top yelling. It's way too much. We haven't seen much progression there from Cole. Cole is brutal during the Rumble. Just too much. Look at this, and yelling. He's got his stats ready to go as soon as somebody comes out, which makes it feel like, this is totally random, right? And he helps contribute.
Music barely hits. This is Chris Jericho's 13th Royal Rumble match. It's like,
yeah, he got 2 minutes to kill. Like, can you wait? Can you wait 90 seconds? He overall contributes to what is a really rough 90-minute watch. So we went -2 for Cole for the Rumble match.
And that's a -9 overall for commentary. So one of the worst commentator shows we've had, I think, so far was this one. All right, atmosphere. We gave a point for. We actually gave 3 points for the all-time stadium and presentation. I mean, it looks amazing, regardless of what it is and where it is. Like, it looks really cool. It looks like a big-time rock show. Triple H's great entrance looks like a rock star. A point for that. A point for Cena with all the kids dressed like him is a kind of cool touch. A point for the Wyatt entrance. A point for Nakamura's entrance look great. A point for the Rusev Day with Aiden English. A point for Taker's entrance, which always travels well. And we gave a point for some of the nicer pops in the Rumble, Mysterio, Hornswoggle, or in all kind of good reactions. But beyond that, it was a lot of silence.
Yeah, Mr. Six WrestleManias himself, Mr. Chocolate Doodoo Fingers with a big pop. For our minuses, we've got a simplistic opening video package, which we've seen a lot of those during this project, and a lot of them are really good, but this wasn't one of them. They just kind of name the matches, run down the card. The crowd going to sleep for a while after the opener, not what you want to see on a show. Leads to a weird and uneasy vibe throughout the whole show too. just like alternating between like silence and a smattering of like a light applause or buzz for long stretches of time. So we went -2 there to kind of encapsulate that the whole night.
Mhm.
The crowd being dead for the lame Styles and Nakamura finish. The Rumble is just so long and quiet outside of some entrances that you named. Just long stretches of silence and non pops. And Shane takes like a huge bump in the crowd, like
Yeah.
does not care at all.
He almost dies and then just like complete silence. It's like this guy's sacrificing his life overseas for you and no one cares.
Yeah, so that is a war
4.
of, let me check, 4. So
Yeah. So all right.
feel like they pulled the nose up on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Notable moments. We gave a point for being the first of the Saudi Arabia deal. So pretty infamous show. A point for the Deleters of Worlds, Hardy and Wyatt winning the tag titles. A point for Jericho making his WWE return after another layoff. A point for the Bludgeon Brothers destroying the Usos. That's a big win for them, coming off Mania to then kill the Usos. A point for Hiroki Sumi, big sumo star, guest appearance. A point for Goldust. He makes an appearance here. 13th Rumble, second all time. A point for Rey Mysterio making his return after he had been gone for a while, like 4 years or so, right? So this is a pretty big moment for him to come back. And he's still been here till this day, right? I don't think he leaves again. So,
Yeah, I think he's in.
or maybe I don't know. Maybe he's not back full time yet. He's back pretty soon, full time after this, if not fully here. But um, we get the all-time meme of Titus O'Neil, poor guy, falling under the ring. Point for that. I mean, it's a really notable piece of the show. Poor guy goes running down and slides under. They replay it 100 times. A point for Lashley, makes his first pay-per-view return since 2007. He came back the night after Mania. And a point for Daniel Bryan, setting the longevity record. Again, I mean, we're kludgy on our stats, but they count it, so whatever. And then a point for Braun Strowman being the greatest Royal Rumble winner. So those are your moments for the night.
All right. For our minuses, we've got blowback for WWE entering their deal with the Saudi Arabia government. There's been ongoing. It has been an ongoing PR concern since. We've got all the announcers and wrestlers giving the hype and praise. Just feels really forced and sarcastic all night. Uneasy feeling as well throughout the show with all that. So we went -3 to encapsulate that. No women's matches allowed. We got Mike Bennett flies to Saudi Arabia for a 5-second Royal Rumble appearance. And then the women not allowed at the show during the Revolution era. So I think you throw that on top of no women's matches, period.
Yeah, we kind of stacked it because fuck it. It's like,
we went
yeah,
-3.
we went an extra, but I mean, this is like their hottest period of women's wrestling, and they're trying to
Mhm.
legitimize. And you're running a major show out here where you can't even have any of them on, let alone in matches. So bad look. So it's a +1 overall for moments. 0.75 for match grades. Card structure, we give a point for them starting hot with the Legends match, a point for loading the card with title matches and gimmicks to make it feel like a big deal, a point to close with the Rumble match, and a point for starting with Bryan and letting him showcase himself after the big comeback at Mania, kind of reestablish what a great worker he is.
Ooh, for card structure and
A
the
lot of talking for you on this
minuses.
show.
Here we go. We have the bastardizing, pissing on the legacy of the Royal Rumble match, all of its stats and history with this 50-man incarnation. We've got all the political interest and propaganda all night as well. We went -2. We got commercials on a 5-hour show on their own network, -2. Doing a cruiserweight match that is heavily mat based doesn't help keep the hot vibes, especially going on second. Expert panel recaps just drag things out even more on the show. Dragging JR and King out to Saudi Arabia for no reason. Awkward, especially with Byron there. Like
Yeah,
you
it's like
wish,
he's
like
running
maybe,
back and forth from commentary. He's winded.
yeah, and he's going up to the booth, yeah. But so he's winded from all that. It turns into nerve-wracking hype for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What else we got? A long stretch of interviews and hype packages for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Again, it feels like you're watching like a paid infomercial with wrestling in between.
I mean, it's due to the prayer break, so it is what it is. But it's like this makes everything feel so much longer on top of everything else. Like they could have tightened other stuff to allow for that time, you know?
Right. Or shoot some matches before the show starts and air
Yeah, an
those.
era. Yeah, yeah.
Promos. I don't know. We got the PC training montage and signee presentation with the Davaris coming out that drag things out even more.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, awful finish to Styles and Nakamura. I got Lesnar and Reigns again 3 weeks after the WrestleMania bomb. The confusing finish that we talked about to avoid beating Reigns clean once again. A huge rumble like this without using any double duty means a lot of low-level entrants, World War III style, like we said, and just drag things out and gets no reaction. I mean, you could have tightened
That's the
this
worst
up and
part of
done.
it. That's the worst
Yeah.
part of it is there's no reaction because of it. So it's like, why not use some of the hot guys you had earlier in the night to at least get a pop? Like you could have put
Mm.
Styles, Nakamura, Cena, Orton, like there's guys you could have been the Hardys that are stars that would at least woken the crowd up. So it's a -9 for card structure. You can see where we're headed here. Rewatchability, we give a point for the cage breaking spear, and that was unique, and a point for Braun choke slamming Shane off the top through a table. That was a wild moment.
For our mises, we've got 5 hours being way too long for this show. It's impossible, I think, to go back and rewatch. We got Cena's pandering post-match speech about how important the show is. We got the WWE roster singing about the WWE Network like it's like it's Live Aid, and you got Freddie Mercury up there with his arms up. Byron in near tears trying to not mess up the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia hype.
He's dying. He's so worried he's gonna fuck something up.
Got a life-threatening weapon pointed in his back. We got the cringy Jericho interview with Mike Rome, trying way too hard, but all the goofiness makes it feel like an unimportant show. All the announcers and wrestlers giving the hype and praise just feels so forced and sarcastic again. Everything feels uneasy throughout the show. You can feel the tension, and we went -3 there. And then we've got, last but not least, Bobby Lashley almost killing Big Cass with what turns out being a brainbuster. I think it was supposed to be a suplex, but ends up being a brainbuster up against the ropes.
So it's a -7 for rewatchability. We actually had no all-time bad matches, no all-time good either. But Marcus, that gives us a total WAR score of -17.25, which easily makes it our worst show that we've ever watched. Our previous low was Over the Limit 2011 at -9. So, I mean, it's not even in the realm of worst show. Like, it is just by far the worst show we've had to sit through. It was long. It was bloated. It was boring. It felt pointless. Like no one seemed comfortable. Everyone seemed nervous. It was a weird vibe. It was not enjoyable at all.
It has bottomed out the floor of what I think we're going to have during this project. So hopefully,
I can't imagine anything passes this. I mean,
hopefully that's the good news. Is like we've got our worst show, and everything from this point on is onward and upwards. But
our best show right now is Rumble 02 at 44. So we we have a 61-point difference between our best now and our worst.
Huge swing.
Yeah. We have more Saudi shows to come, so I guess we'll see if any are as bad as this. But I don't think they are. Like I'm not a big fan of them, but I think this is far and away the worst that we're going to cover. All right, let's get to our second show of the night, and that is Backlash, May 6th, 2018, for the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. 14,724 in attendance. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, Jonathan Coachman, Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton mixing in on the commentary. Coach and Cole are Raw. Phillips and Saxton SmackDown, Graves on both shows at this point. So the coach is back. Talk about him. We had one pre-show match. It was Ruby Riott defeating Bayley in 10 minutes. And then we'll dive into the show itself. So our opener kind of continues our IC title feud overall, and that is Seth Rollins defending against The Miz successfully. I liked this as an opener. It's actually have it as probably a top 2-ish match on the night. I went 3.25 stars.
2.75 for me. I liked it as well as an opener. Didn't quite get to that 3 stratosphere that it did for you, but nonetheless, I liked it.
Match, 20 minutes.
It's long, and that's what did it for me. I feel like you could have had a hotter opener if this would have went, 13.
20 minutes. It's our second longest match of the night, and not by much, by about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
But to their defense, I think we're going to see this season that these Rollins matches where he goes out there and he works. I mean, they take a while to really heat up and get going, and they usually pay off. Our next contest is for the Raw Women's Championship as Nia Jax is going to retain against Alexa Bliss. I went 2.5. I feel like I like their WrestleMania match a good bit, but whenever we do the season prior to this one, we'll find out about that. But this one was just 2.5 for me. I feel like they captured the magic that they did have at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, this feud is whatever. The whole bullying thing. They try and make a good point. It's just that I don't think Nia ever was really a sympathetic face. Unless you're brother Nate Milton, I think she was better suited as a heel. She should have probably been the one doing the bullying. I get what they were doing, the mean girl thing. But just Nia to me just screams like, big bruising heel using power offense. Like she should be dominating, not being the underdog to someone that's like half her size, literally, height wise. And it's like, I just don't think she was like one that she didn't have that connection with the fans. And then she also had the rep, right, of like it hurting people and stuff. So like it just to me was an awkward choice of way to go with this program. But Jax retains 2.5. U.S. title on the line. Jeff Hardy defeats Randy Orton. I went 275 on this. I think it was a fine match. I like this feud. We'll see more of it as the year goes on, and we have a really good installment of it coming later in the year. As Orton, I think he misses a little bit of time with an injury, but he's still kind of around. But they'll have rematches as we go, and the one's great. But this one was just fine for me.
Yeah, this one's more up my alley. I went 3.25. I really like these two. I love Orton. I really, love Jeff Hardy. I'm in the Hardy fan section with you. So this one was really good stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
Our next match is Daniel Bryan taking on Big Cass. Classic, big little storyline, and I went with 2.5.
I went
Basic
2 and 3
story, classic
quarters.
action.
Yeah, 2 and 3 quarters to me. It was fine. I mean, Bryan's Bryan, right? Just under 8 minutes. But when Daniel Bryan resigned and decided to come back, there was a lot of frustration on fans on social media. I remember thinking like, this guy can wrestle again and he could go anywhere and have dream matches, New Japan, Indies, and like, we weren't quite to all in yet. I think is that the next year or is that this year? Is that 2018 or 19? Oh, maybe it is 18.
The ROH version is 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there was excitement around that. Like they're like, oh, this guy could go have some classics again, and there was a lot of anger when he resigned because it's like, oh, they're just gonna waste him, and here we are 2 shows in, like that shitty Mania match with Shane where he got hurt and came back, and now he's fighting Big Cass, and yeah, maybe he's working the rust off and figuring things out, but it felt like this dude, we didn't know at the time, right? Like this guy could be on borrowed time. Like who knows? Every time he's tried to come back before, he's had like a month and then got hurt again. So, like, if he only has so many matches in the chamber, and we're using one on Big Cass, felt like a bit of a waste. Cass beats him up after the match, so it's like, oh, is this going to continue? Again, it was fine, but it felt like at the time like a big waste of Bryan, what they could be using him for. Up next, we have Carmella upsetting Charlotte to win the SmackDown Women's title. I'm sorry, to retain, right? She had already cashed in. She was champion coming in. So 2.5, but this was an upset that she retained for sure.
Yeah, I like Carmella a lot during this run. I also like Charlotte a lot during this time period too. So this one trended a little bit higher for me. I went with 3, but that's just me being high on the two of them.
Yeah, the finish is fine too, where Charlotte does the moonsault, misses, and her knee buckles, and Carmella just kind of rolls her up. But
yeah,
I mean, they're paying off Carmella winning the Money in the Bank and cashing in, and they're kind of doing the lucky chicken shit heel stuff with her. So, and she's fine at it. Whatever.
Yeah, no, she does really good character work here. For the WWE Championship, it is another installment in this feud that will never end, as it is AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura going to a no contest there. I believe, is this the double low blow?
Yeah, I believe so. It's another non-finish.
I went 2.5. Overall, I felt like this was a waste of time.
Yeah, I actually went 375. Like I liked the match itself. It's just the finish really killed it. It's a no DQ, but they can't continue. They were just trying to find ways to keep stretching it out, waiting to get to that classic. You could have just done the knock DQ again if you really want to, but I think their chemistry showed up a little bit more here. This felt a little bit more in line with Mania than the Greatest Rumble match. So next up, we have Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I went 2.25. Owens and Zayn are terrible. They're as great as they are today. They're terrible in that stretch. Like they were so maligned. Like you couldn't believe there was such a groundswell of hate against these two guys, like these beloved guys. Like they were brutal on SmackDown with the feud with Shane, and all this stuff. Just was rough to watch. Lashley struggles for a while after his comeback. Like he doesn't click. It's almost a year, I feel like, before he really kind of figures it out again and gets going. Strowman is Strowman. So this is like kind of whatever, 2.25 for me.
Yeah, as weird as this, it's the Lana storyline with Lashley. That's where
Right.
like he comes out of his shell and the in ring work follows, and then they get him
Mm-hmm.
with MVP, and he's off to the races. I went 1.75. It just felt like Owens and Zayn, like they're out there pulling teeth. All time capable performers, two all time greats, I think two Hall of Fame guys. As we talk right now, two of the best in the world, in my opinion. But out there, Strowman and Lashley, just
Mm.
the material they were given to work with, it just felt like it
But
it only
they
cost them a
didn't
bit.
raise it up either. Like
No.
it's on them as much because they got a lot of time. Like that Shane stuff, they were all over TV during that stretch with
Mhm.
Brian and Shane. Like they were main eventing every show. They had a chance to try and make it work for as great as they are, and they just could not pull it out.
Yeah, but they're also not doing anything that I know they're capable of doing. It felt like they were in a box and they were trying to not leave the box while trying to get over the material. And, eventually they get out of it. But um, that takes us to our main event,
Mm-hmm.
which is Samoa Joe. I almost said Bob Lashley. It's Samoa Joe taking on Roman Reigns in a big time attraction match of two Samoan Joes. I went with a 3.25. I thought Samoa Joe really did a great job, like bringing this air of danger and legitimacy, and intensity and conflict with
Yeah.
Roman here, and I felt like it felt like a almost like a UFC style main event.
Yeah, I went 3.25 as well. Like we said, it's a big year for Joe. He does a lot of big time matches throughout the year, and this is probably the best they ever use him. I don't know how many times there's a pay per view in history like where there's no world title match, and just like a random attraction match closes it out. I mean, this stuff like Buried Alive with Taker Mankind, but that's like a big time feud. This really wasn't even a feud. Like I don't know how many pay per views are with a match like this randomly, no world title, just like two guys wrestling. Um, so anyway, yeah, that closes that out. That gives us a total WAR score of 2.5 for in ring. So pretty low. I would say on the low end of. I think our average shows are like the 3.5 to 5.5. Right, you get above that, it's like a really good show. Below that, it's kind of like in ring. And I'm curious to see how the season goes in the ring, because you think of this era as being like, oh, it's all work rate, right? All work rate, no stories, no moments, all work rate. We'll see. On this night, in
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia, definitely not. On this night, it's not quite there either. So we'll see. All right, let's get to our categories. Let's start with build. We gave a point for Rollins and Miz battling over the IC title. It's been going since Mania, cross-brand war. A point for the long build to the Nia Alexa Bliss story and explosion over the bullying. A point for the good rivalry building with Orton and Hardy, as Orton attacked Hardy after the tag match. They've kind of been needling each other. A point for Cass making a surprise return from injury. A point for Carmella cashing in on Charlotte after the Iconics attacked her and she won the title. A point for the Styles Nakamura feud rolling on. Nakamura slowly turned heel with the low blows. And then a point for the good build, Joe torturing Reigns to set up the main event.
For our minuses, we've got lazy storytelling there. I think with the material of Cass punking out Brian for being short and taking a spotlight. We
Makes me
got
sound
Owens and
delusional.
Zayn. It does, yeah. Um, Especially since he got over because of
Mm-hmm.
Enzo and being whatever. We got Owens and Zayn. Just their booking is just stumbling. They feel aimless. They feel boxed in. And then two of the best wrestlers in the world fighting over low blows. Again, the
Right.
material, like Nakamura's heel turn is fine. Things are progressing, but like the actual material of the low blows, I think is unacceptable for those two.
So it's a 5 for Bill. It's a pretty well built show. Commentary, we gave a point for the good job in the opener, telling the story about Rollins' rehab knee. Good job telling the story of Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss without degenerating to negative slants. Like if King would have been in there, like where things might have gone.
Oh yeah.
They do a good job talking about the bullying without actually bullying.
Hmm.
A good point. A good job by Vic Joseph. talks about how Hardy and Orton wouldn't haven't wrestled in 10 years since Royal Rumble 2008. So it's a kind of a good point that he brings up. I'm sorry, Tom Phillips, not Vic Joseph.
No, I like Big Tom. He's really good on commentary, and
Yeah.
I feel like Orton's like the one guy as we do this project where like they do acknowledge his history in the company,
Mm-hmm.
which I really enjoy. For our minuses, we've got Cole opening the pay per view with negative energy. We're in the no pyro era still,
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely hurts. Cole talking about quote, or not yet. Cole first talking about stories instead of feuds or issues, and then he says, "quote Stories will continue tonight." Like
Yeah, it's like, come on.
people are spending money.
Mm-hmm.
People have the network. They're going to the show, whatever the case is. They're spending their time. At least pretend like there's going to be some kind of finality tonight,
Right.
and don't even attempt
Or
that
don't call
anymore.
them stories, like
Yeah,
feuds or rivalries or whatever. Like stories will end
issues.
tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything. But yes, we still tell stories, pal. And then commentary having no clue what's going on or who is legal during the Zayn Owens and
Yeah, they
Lashley
were mad. They
Strowman
were
tag
completely
match.
lost during that whole
Yeah,
match.
it was a lost segment.
That feud
They're,
is
throw it in the bin.
a mess. That's a 0, washed out for commentary.
Lucky.
Atmosphere, we give a point for the we give a point for the crowd being red hot for Rollins, a point for Hardy's big pop. Really good buzz and reaction. We didn't talk about this segment yet, but Elias comes out to play and he gets interrupted a bunch. You get New Day, Rusev, Bobby Roode. It was they're all super over guys, and it was fun. A point for the huge pop for Daniel Bryan, a point for Nakamura's entrance, a point for Styles' entrance, and a point for the tension and danger when Joe makes his entrance, like you talked about.
Mm-hmm. For our minuses, we've got the crowd quiet for Jackson Bliss and even boo during Nia's post-match promo.
Mm-hmm.
Jax is just not there as an empathetic face. We got the crowd being flat for Orton and Hardy, which crushed my soul. Casket's pure silence,
Mm-hmm.
maybe deservedly so during this run. The crowd is really quiet for Charlotte and Carmella. The crowd is pissed off at the finish of Nakamura and Styles, and rightfully so. The crowd is checked out on Zayn and Owens drama. Them going back and forth or trying to
Mm-hmm.
like double turn on the other one. Nobody cared. The crowd chants boring during slow spots on the show, especially during the sluggish main event after what ended up being a pretty long night.
Yeah. That's another show that's like 4 hours. I mean, that's just this season. There's very
Mm-hmm.
few. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 that aren't 4 hours, and most are well over 4. So it's just a long season full of content. This is the content era. It's the content era. That's what it should be known as. Just a ton of churning out as much as you can. All right, -1 there for atmosphere. Notable moments. I'm curious if this is a trend to this season. Like a lot of shows, long matches, nothing matters, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
these, in my mind, that's what this means. Like this season is going to be that. A lot of time given. It's going to be made or broken on match quality and investment into the storylines because I feel like a lot of these shows has nothing happening. And this is one of them. We gave 2 moments. Hardy beats Orton clean, which is kind of a big deal, but even that's a stretch. And Samoa Joe main events a dirty pay-per-view. Nothing else of consequence happened on this show.
Yeah, that's for 4 hours. That's a disappointing return. For our minuses, we got Cass attacking Bryan after the match. No need to keep that going on. Completely wreck and even like risk Bryan's health
Mm-hmm.
if you're wanting to handle this guy with kid gloves and keep him in a bubble. Like you want to limit his physicality. Um, we've
And the
also got
announcers are like shitting on him while they're
oh
doing
yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, he's insecure, and that's why he's bullying the little guy. Like, nothing made it. All the commentators, no one's even defending him. Like, they're just shitting on him as he's beating up Bryan, and it was not good for anyone.
Yeah, we've got Carmella beating Charlotte clean. It feels like kind of a wasted clean win on for Carmella over Charlotte. She's just not there yet, but I think she will get there. But at this point in time, not there yet. She should be cheating to win right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like handful of trunks. They do a good job with the knee, but like use
Right.
that Jericho finish. The exposed turnbuckle, the feet on the ropes, the
Mm-hmm.
trunks, whatever. The double low blow finish, I'm going to harp on it again for 2 of the
Mm-hmm.
best workers of the last decade. It's lame, it's disappointing, it's lazy, it's uninspiring, it's unacceptable, it's borderline disrespectful to the workers and the fans, in my opinion.
So it's a -1 for moments. So just again, nothing happening. 2.5 for matches. Card structure. We gave a point for starting hot with Rollins in an IC title match. A point for starting for having Orton chasing the U.S. title that elevates the division. So it's a good decision. Mixing in Elias, Rusev, Inoue, Jose, and New Day. A good choice for non-match segment. The crowd is into all those guys. It's a peak for like almost all of them. Elias is over. Rusev is mega over. Jose, he's got his minute in the sun here, and New Day, of course, always over. So good choice there for a non-wrestling segment. And then a good stip for the no DQ for Styles Doc. Forget how it ended, but the stipulation coming in because of the low blows to me was like at least made sense.
Yeah, we're definitely in the fan interaction era
Mm-hmm.
with all those guys that came out in that segment.
Mm-hmm.
For our minuses, for card structure, we got Waste of Brian. The cash push makes sense. He's big. You were trying to break him off a tag team, but Brian should have been used in like dream matches, like you
Yeah.
said, or use him up the card, and not kind of waste bullets here. Another bad finish for Styles and Nakamura. We've got Lashley being wasted already after his hot return. No world title match to close the show because of the finish to Nakamura and Styles, and also no Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. So it's like you're kind of stuck because you're not going to end with the double low blow. So,
Yeah.
all right. So it's a 0 wash for card structure. Rewatchability, we gave a point for Elias's concert false start segment, like we talked about. A point for the nasty finish with Brian just clubbing Cass in the head into the crossface was really cool. And a point for Joe's Uranagi through the table on Reigns was a really cool
Yeah,
spot.
that was awesome. Um, for our minuses, we've got Nia's flat anti-bullying promo in the ring.
Mm,
Just rings hollow.
the crowd's
And
booing it.
then,
Just make that a pre-tape on Raw or something, like
yeah,
not a live reaction situation.
no. And then we've got Carmella screaming and screeching all during the match with like no reaction. You can tell like she's trying super hard to get over and
Yeah.
get her character work in, but again, like just not getting any reaction from the crowd yet.
No, I don't need to see that one ever again. So it's a -1 on rewatchability. No all-time matches either way. So again, it was nothing awful, but nothing great either. I mean, our highest combined match score was Reigns and Joe at 3.25. I mean, I was high on Styles Doc. You were low, but again, everything is in that 2 and 3/4 to like 3.5 range, and that's it. So the floor is high. Is the ceiling high? We haven't seen it yet.
Mm,
So that gives us a total war score of 4.5. So after Greatest Royal Rumble, that seems high.
right.
But that puts it down with some of the dregs. I mean, I think when you think of the show, it makes sense. You would kind of envision where it is. Like, think of the type of shows it's around. Rumble 95, Vengeance 04, Elimination Chamber 15, Elimination Chamber 12, No Mercy 99, the UK version, No Way Out 05. Like, it's just kind of a whatever. Like it's similar to a lot of those. I'm curious if this season is going to be a lot like 0405, right? We
Mm,
had a ton of shows in that, like just nothing happening range. Unforgiven 04, Armageddon 04, Taboo Tuesday 04. Like those are all right below this, So that felt like this, just like a nothing happening. Fine, the matches are fine. There's no big moments. You can miss it and not miss anything. And I think that's a big hit to the content era that we're going to be going through.
mm,
Like so many shows that you could just skip and it doesn't mean anything.
yep. Yeah. I mean, on the plus side, you can throw out a big show pretty much whenever you want because you have your own network. But the downside of that is nothing happening. You don't wanna advance your stories too fast, as Michael Cole would say. So again, nothing happening, and the athleticism is really surprising to me because athleticism, they have the best athletes the company's ever had, and I think this is a point that I know me and Aaron have talked about. I think he said it publicly, but like the athleticism and the athletes are the best that they've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, even the workers are some of the best they've had, but like the actual character work and how that's implemented into the matches and the actual stories, it's like all time like disengaging levels. So I'm curious to see if that picks up, if it spikes or whatever during the season. You know,
In a weird way, like as much as it was horrible at the time, there's a big argument to be made that the pandemic really turned the ship around for WWE. Like they were able to reset and think about what they wanted to
mm-hmm.
be. Nick Khan came into power more. they were able to refocus, and now where they have less pay-per-views, they feel bigger. They make everyone a big deal, whether it's international shows or whatever it is. Like everything just feels bigger and less bloated. And that's still with a lot of TV time. I mean, they still got tons of shitload of content out there, but they were just in a rough spot going into the pandemic era with some of those the amount of stuff that they were churning out. I think Peacock helped too. I would say the pandemic, but also the Peacock move, where they had a little bit less of just kind of running a ton of shows out there at all times. All right, so that'll do it. As a reminder, we can just get our top shows. Realm below 2 at 44 points. SummerSlam 01 below that at 39, and then on from there. You could check previous installments to kind of recap where we stand in our top. I mean, we've now done, this is our 11th season we're covering, and we've done 94 pay-per-view events, Marcus. So
wow,
a pretty good sample size, bud, overall. Next episode will also be our 50th, so that'll be kind of cool.
cool.
We'll continue 2018-19 season with a couple more pay-per-views on that episode. Until then, check out everything we have to offer here at the North-South Connection across all of our platforms here on YouTube and any podcast app as well. Follow us on social media, northsouthconnection.com. I want to give a shout out to my boy Rocco Martone, Chained to the Dead. If you're
Yes,
into metal, you can check out his work. And he tours a fairly decent amount in the New Jersey surrounding areas, sometimes leaks into the Northeast, but you can see his work if you just search Chained to the Dead out there. So shout out Rocco. So then, live your life above replacement level, and we'll talk to you soon.